Hey, what's going on everyone? Not wanting to feel left out from the other protagonists with new toys, Dark Knight Cecil gets a rework and an LD of his own. No burst though, and that's still a bit up in the air as is. I was very fortunate and got his LD, so this Dark Knight is now also a Purple Knight. If you're interested in what the commander of the Red Wings does, what he offers to a team, and what I think of him, stick around and find out. Dark Knight Cecil is an aggressive offensive unit who wields dark throughout his kit and can be described similarly to a berserker, getting stronger at lower HP. As such, all of his skills besides his EX drain his HP, and to make up for it, he has a last stand effect that can protect him at as low as 20% HP. He has good longevity thanks to his EX cast giving him back another use of both skills, and in the event you're ever above his threshold, it also turns them into their enhanced skills. With his LD, he can quickly apply his Dark Imperil, bring himself under his HP threshold, reapply his own unique buffs, and apply a strong debuff that has a sap effect and the currently valuable HP damage up. His skill 1 is Darkness, a 6-hit range dark group attack with single target HP damage that costs 15% HP. Yeah, it's straight up just called Darkness. In its base form, it'll grant Cecil a generic buff for max bravery and Power of Darkness, one of his unique buffs that increases his max bravery, attack, and reduces his HP damage taken. In its plus form, it gains more potency and overflow, and will grant Cecil his second unique buff, Light Within Darkness, which gives him initial bravery based regen. With Power of Darkness active, he gets enhanced basic attacks, both gaining 1 hit and the HP attack gets overflow. If Light Within Darkness is also active, they are further enhanced to heal him based on the damage done, but using the HP 2+ will cancel Light Within Darkness. His skill 2 is Valiant Blow, a 4-hit melee dark attack that costs 40% HP, launches the target, and batteries his allies based on the HP damage dealt. Like Darkness, this will also grant Cecil Power of Darkness, as well as a generic attack buff. In its plus form, it deals 6 hits instead, has higher overflow, party battery, splash damage, and will also grant Light Within Darkness. Despite this form dealing splash HP damage, this will not prep the other targets to be launched. His EX is Dark Cannon, 3 ranged dark hits into an HP attack. At base, this already has really high overflow at 250%, and will regen 1 use of both Darkness and Valiant Blow. The EX Plus came early for Global, and while I didn't use it then since I had other plans and wasn't really interested in him at the time, with his powerful LD arriving now, this was the time to upgrade it for me. Realization adds more hits, potency, and splash damage, as well as applying a Dark Imperil at the end. 1 ingot is the stat boost, and Dark Cecil gains some of the biggest boosts I've seen, 130% in total. 2 ingots gives him starting buffs as well as letting his EX refresh Power of Darkness and Light Within Darkness. 3 ingots gives the EX a double cast effect, dealing 20% splash on the first HP hit and a further 20% based on the total after the second hit, with the Dark Imperil still being applied at the end. This will also allow him to use the plus forms of both his skills once, even if he's above the HP threshold. It also gives further modifiers to his 2+ basic attacks depending on where his HP is. If he's above 50%, these become power variants, gaining 2 hits with the HP attack dealing splash damage and no longer dispelling Light Within Darkness, and costing 20% HP. If he's below 50%, these become heal variants, trading all the offensive boosts for more healing, and the HP attack will also no longer dispel Light Within Darkness. His LD is Soul Eater, a 6-hit range dark attack done twice that deals 20% total HP damage splash. It costs 60% HP, has 30% HP damage return, instant turn rate, and delays all targets 1 turn. For Cecil, it reapplies Power of Darkness and Light Within Darkness, and onto all targets applies a Dark Imperil after the first HP hit and a new debuff, New Moon Mysteries, which has a sap effect for Cecil and a valuable HP damage increase for the whole party. The LD passive raises his attack and max bravery. So despite getting his LD as literally the last expected one before LD extensions, denying him an LD call of his own, Dark Cecil still manages to carve out a decent spot for himself amongst other LD units, most notably as part of launch-focused team comps. His rework is really minimal, mostly just more hits and increased damage, but the boost he got to Valiant Blow is very helpful. 2 more hits and lots more damage compared to before the rework really boost the launch damage and the battery, and the 20% HP damage up from his LD debuff just adds on to this. Huge launch potential, a strong debuff that helps the whole team's damage output, and great longevity, all things that make up a worthwhile party slot even as LD extensions start arriving. And even without his own extension, he can still equip a call, which means he has access to other LD calls. As you may guess, Due to his HP conditionals, using Dark Cecil in an average party isn't the simplest. I would not recommend pairing him with anyone who has constant burst healing such as Furion, but occasional burst healing such as from Warrior of Light is fine. Regen healing is also fine, but you will likely want to stick around like 30% HP rather than 40% to more easily maintain your plus skills. Having a tank to redirect HP damage such as Gladio or Bosch also makes it easier to use Dark Cecil and not worry about him dying suddenly. Alternatively, and depending on team comp and fight conditions, you could also just go full offense and speed through an enemy's life bar. For example, to farm the artifacts for this event, I've been running Dark Cecil, Gabranth, and Lightning, and that comes out to boosts of 20% HP damage dealt and 30% HP damage taken. Of course, this is an ideal scenario, but I'm putting out massive single target damage either via launch or Lightning's EX. Another capable party composition is Dark Cecil, Cloud, and Kais. Two have launch on demand, and the other has guaranteed launch setup. That setup really accentuates the power of the launch itself, thanks to Kais' future LD giving the party HP damage return based on the chase total, and you could readily just equip everyone with support calls if you needed healing. Even though Dark Cecil can still put out respectable damage with his whole kit, he's mostly single target focused, and having battery connected to his launch move means that's naturally going to be one of his highlights when slotting him into a team. All that being said, Dark Cecil is still due for an LD extension in Japan, possibly a burst too, but that just feels really up in the air. I feel like he could get one, especially since they're letting side and sequel games get burst representatives, but we still have a few mainline cast members without a burst or even an LD. As for the extension though, I do know some things I want for it, but overall I'm not so sure how many changes it needs. Either a middle HP hit or HP damage return after the first HP hit of the cast would be nice, or maybe increasing the splash damage. Adding another turn of delay would also be cool, as it'd give him a better chance of lining up all allies for a launch. An idea in my head was that if they have New Moon Mysteries be auto-applied at the start of each wave, then also have him start with plus forms of both skills similar to what his EX plus 3 of 3 can do. That way he can still get under 50% HP without immediately burning a use of his LD. I feel like he's more of an offensive enabler rather than your primary damage unit, and he doesn't currently function via auras like his Paladin version. As such, adding like Brave damage up to New Moon Mysteries would serve as another boost for your primary Brave damage unit, as well as making him an even better call candidate. But overall, I'm just not sure how they could fit Dark Cecil into being a sort of mainstream damage unit. If he does get a burst, I'd argue he could also get another rework, but give him like splash HP damage on Darkness Plus and group Brave hits on Valiant Blow Plus and call it good. So yeah, that's a purple Dark Knight Cecil. As he stands right now, he's definitely powerful, he just has a more narrow sense of excellence compared to say Lightning or Cloud. What's more, outside of launch comps, he's comparatively more replaceable, as thanks to recent strong LD calls and support auras in Japan, stacking HP damage boosts and hitting enemies repeatedly for like 200k HP damage or more in one turn not in a launch is getting more possible, with more what I would consider standard team builds. Not to say that launch comps aren't still strong, in fact thanks to Lael and Kais LDs, launches are probably better than ever, but with enough understanding and abusing of unit synergies, that kind of specific team formation isn't going to be as uncontested as it once was. If you like this character breakdown and want to see others like it, other Opera Omni content, or want to share your thoughts, be sure to stick around and subscribe. Discussion, likes, and shares are always appreciated, and as always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again.